Jackie Lawrence is out Christmas tree shopping with her kids, who are attracted by huge trees. However, she refuses to buy them because the ceiling in their house isn't as high. Her daughter Jessica suggests calling their dad to help with the tree when Jackie gets a call from her client, Claire. Jackie politely turns down Jessica's idea while her son, Will, takes his sister aside. He explains to Jessica that she shouldn't mention their father because it makes their mom feel bad. Claire is unhappy about an ongoing project at her house and requests Jackie to stop by on short notice. So, Jackie goes to Claire's house with the kids, but Claire bails on her because she has to go to a tasting. Claire drives off while Will expresses his frustration for her inconsideration, as they drove half an hour to get there. Will recommends that Jackie should fire her when she laughs and explains to him that Claire is her boss and client, not the other way around. Jackie unloads the Christmas tree from the roof of her car herself, and her kids watch her struggle with it. Then, Will helps her drag it inside their home where she plans to set it up herself. Her kids can't help but mention the smart stand their dad has for Christmas trees, which is much newer and advanced than the one Jackie has. To this, their mom gives them a lesson that you don't trade old and beloved things just because there are newer things out there. She makes a point to honor this Christmas tree stand even though it's old and falls apart in her hands. They manage to put the tree together on the stand, and now the kids want to put the lights on it. But Jackie is exhausted from all the labor and wants to take a break to eat. Jessica points out that Melinda lets them eat when they want, instead of at specific times. This causes Jackie to remind them that Melinda is their father's girlfriend, not their mom, who will use her authority to discipline them. Later that night, Jackie is back on a call with Claire to discuss more work matters. She is about to end the call when she gets invited to a Christmas party at Claire's house since it's her first Christmas since the divorce. She appreciates the gesture, but refuses because she's spending Christmas with her kids. Jackie hangs up the call when the Christmas tree she put up and decorated with her kids falls, breaking all the ornaments. She bakes Christmas cookies for her kids, who already have their mouths watering at the aroma. Will puts some music on as he loves to be the DJ while Jessica is appointed with decorations. That's when the kids' father and Jackie's ex-husband Daniel walk in with his girlfriend Melinda. He claims that they showed up tonight to deliver the Christmas presents they were supposed to drop off tomorrow morning to save time. Jackie argues that her Christmas party is about to start. She also notices that Daniel got Will a snowboard for his trip even though they agreed on no big gifts. Daniel assures her that there's no competition going on here. Jackie implies that she's getting late. He instructs her to not let the kids stay up until late because he'll pick them up at 9 a.m. tomorrow for the flight they have to take together. Melinda brings her a present too because she was told by Daniel that her birthday falls this week. Jackie accepts the gift politely until Melinda passively reminds her how old she is as she's turning 40. Jackie hears the doorbell ring and sees them out so that she can have her Christmas party with her children and friends. At the party, she recounts this interaction to her best friend Christine, who reminds Will of Jackie's birthday next week. Christine emphasizes how forgiving Jackie is and believes that Daniel doesn't deserve such kindness. However, she does agree with Melinda's comment about how often Jackie wears her sweatshirt. They walk up to the table where their two other friends, Annie and Nicole, are seated. They discuss Melinda's young age and Daniel's affairs when Annie's husband comes to get her for their dinner at a fancy restaurant. Jackie realizes that all her friends have plans with their families for tonight, so she cooked all this food for nothing. She acts understanding and lets them all go, which eventually leads to her being alone in the house at night while it snows outside. She drinks wine by herself when Will comes up, offering to help her with the cleanup, which includes a table full of untouched food. Will mentions her birthday coming up on December 30th and contemplates not going on the skiing trip with Daniel. He thinks that Jackie shouldn't be alone on her birthday, and she assures him that she has friends to keep her company. She promises him that she'll have a lot of fun on her birthday, during which she'll call him to sing happy birthday for her. Jackie says goodbye to her kids on Christmas morning as they leave for their skiing trip with Daniel and Melinda. Christine comes over and learns that Jackie's kids will be back the day before New Year's, which is perfect for the birthday gift she's about to give Jackie. She reveals that she's taking Jackie to Hawaii for her birthday. It's supposed to be a quick 3-day trip with a stay at the Royal Hawaiian Hotel. Jackie gives her a hug and thanks her. When she calls Daniel to run this through with him, he doesn't cooperate at first, claiming that he has a party planned for that night. Jackie gives him the idea of hiring a babysitter, which will be difficult to do on New Year's Eve. Will snatches the phone from Daniel's hand and tells his mom about how bad his father is at board sports, which cracks them up. Jackie reminds him that this is her first vacation in 3 years, so he should do better before she hangs up on him. On the day of her flight, Jackie waits for Christine at the airport, who finally shows up but without her bags. She appears panicked and states that her grandmother fell and broke her hip, so she has to go to the hospital to speak with the doctors. Christine adds that there's no one else to do it and that her grandmother is really scared. Jackie immediately understands and decides to drive Christine to the hospital, but that's not what she wants. Christine orders Jackie to get on the flight and go on vacation nevertheless, as everything is already paid for. She insists that Jackie can enjoy her time alone too by getting tanned, massaged, and sleeping in. She elaborates that if Jackie doesn't go on the trip, she'll end up feeling really horrible. Jackie remembers her promise to Will and agrees to go on the trip by herself. She boards the plane and drinks lots of wine during her flight, blabbering about her divorce to the man sitting beside her on the plane. It turns out that she's telling all these stories to the air hostess, who keeps pouring her more alcohol. She continues sharing her feelings with the passenger next to her after the stewardess leaves until he gives her the cold shoulder. She realizes that he's working, so she starts reading a book to keep herself busy. Afterward, she is welcomed and taken up to her room at the hotel. She walks onto the sea-facing terrace of her room and enjoys the beautiful view of the beach and the mountains. She goes down to the pool, where she is seated in a comfortable lounge chair. Almost immediately, a man from across the pool sends her a drink. She sips the drink and starts to read her book when the man makes his way to her. He introduces himself as Michael, who is an orthodontist on a work and play trip. He compliments how perfect her teeth are and asks for her name, but she doesn't give it away. Yet, he keeps hitting on her, insisting to not leave her chair until she agrees to go to dinner with him. That's when a young guy with a toned body approaches them, insinuating that she's running late for her surf lesson with him. He offers to pick up her stuff and carry it to the beach, which is when she plays along with his bit and gets off the lounge chair. They get to the beach when she thanks him for saving, and they wish each other a Merry Christmas. He brings up the surf lesson again, and she responds that he can't teach an old dog some new tricks. He plays dumb in response to her self-deprecating comment and conveys that the offer still stands if she changes her mind. They exchange each other's names and shake hands before he walks away. Jackie checks him out and realizes that he really is the surfing instructor for the hotel. After some time, she can no longer resist it and signs up for a surfing lesson with Kyle. The receptionist smiles and informs her that Kyle is booked. He offers to call her in case of a cancellation, but she walks off feeling embarrassed. She calls and updates Christine about her day, admitting that Kyle made her so nervous the words out of her mouth came out all wrong. She also asks about Christine's grandmother, who's still in need of a caretaker, and thanks her for the gorgeous room. She's still on the phone when Kyle walks up to her with his surfboard. He heard from an employee, Tommy, that she was looking for him, and she claims that he convinced her to take a lesson after all. She repeats that he's all booked, which is when he discloses that he has a cancellation tomorrow at 5 so she can have the last session of the day. She politely turns down the offer, but he shares with her some words of surfing wisdom, encouraging her to step out of her comfort zone and try something new. She highly doubts that surfing will change her life, but they schedule the session anyway. The next day, he teaches her the technique of standing and balancing her body on the surfboard. She trips and falls on the sand, and he helps her up. She'd prefer it if they go into the sea when the waves have died down, but he informs her that waves are required for surfing. He ties her ankles to the board and gives her one last tip before they step out into the sea. With his guidance and amusement at her failures, Jackie manages to paddle a bit into the sea. He finds her a good wave and pushes her into it, shouting words of encouragement. She manages to stand up on the board for a short while until she falls into the water. He understands that she lost his balance because she didn't follow his command to keep her head in the center. She finally succeeds in riding a small wave after numerous failed attempts and cheering on Kyle. He frees her ankle once they're back on the beach, and she offers to buy him a drink to thank him for the lesson. They get to know each other better, and she narrates the story of how she ended up here, including the fact that her birthday will start after midnight tonight. She finds out that Kyle is from Malibu and moved to Hawaii after he loved the view here on his first visit. That was during a 12-day-long Trans-Pacific race with his father, and he knew immediately that he had to live here someday. She catches him looking intently at her, and he compliments how beautiful she is. She accepts the compliment but clarifies that she wasn't hitting on him when she bought him the drink. In fact, she hasn't been with anyone but her husband since she was 26. He acts like he understands as she bites her lip, but they're both making out soon enough. She takes him up to her room, where things heat up even more. Jackie comments that this feels like her first time, and he points out that it is indeed her first time with him. They both agree that their one-night stand was very fun until Kyle runs off. She ends up crying in her bed alone for the rest of the night. She shares all of this with Christine the next morning on a phone call, feeling ashamed of how she rang in the 40th year of her life. She doesn't understand how she makes such stupid decisions that end up hurting her in the end. Christine calls her out for thinking that it's a sign of maturity to have zero feelings. There is a knock on the door of Jackie's hotel room, and she answers it to see Kyle on the other side. He tells her good morning with a wide grin on his face, and she ends the call with Christine. Kyle mentions that he took the day off to help her celebrate her birthday. She tells him that she already ordered breakfast and that's perfect for him, so he invites himself in after putting a flower garland around her neck. They go scuba diving together, during which they stumble upon a kid at the beach who got stung by a jellyfish. Kyle helps the kid, and Jackie observes that he speaks French, just like her. Later on, Will calls her to wish her for her birthday, and she talks to Jessica too. She has to end the call soon because her kids are going for hot chocolate with their dad and Melinda, and that's when Kyle brings over their lunch. She appreciates him for the way he handled that situation with the jellyfish sting, and he introduces her to 3 of his favorite foods. She insists that she's not that hungry, but he feeds her with his own hands, and they agree that everything tastes better outdoors. They go for a walk where he shares that he learned French during his year surfing in France. Jackie, on the other hand, took it in high school and then went to the Sorbonne in Paris for grad school in design. Her phone rings and it's Claire, so she must take the call as she's one of her biggest clients. Kyle doesn't let her receive the call at the expense of missing the fabulous waterfall of Weihai. He brings her to the site of the waterfall and she is mesmerized by it. They take off their shirts and go for a swim in the water, kissing each other under the waterfall. They fight in the water and then he takes her to his place. It's small but she likes how simple and clean it is because it lets in the light. He is about to hop in the shower when she comes across some apparatus in his kitchen. He explains that he makes all-natural surf wax from scratch. He teaches her about a huge vortex of trash between the currents of California and Hawaii, which is horrible. So he makes his wax biodegradable and even has a man from LA named Michael Larkin who wants to market his wax. Michael made Kyle an offer up front and calls him every day to ask about it, but he's not interested. His reasoning for this is that he's an amateur in life and he prefers to keep it that way. She advises him to go for it someday and uses his words of wisdom on him. They are about to go out for dinner that night and he expresses a desire to watch her change in front of him. She retorts that all of the lights are on and she's had 2 children. She shows him the dress she plans to wear and confirms his age, which is 27. He wants her to try out a bikini and she considers doing it someday. At dinner, she confides in him about how she met Daniel and everything that led up to this moment. Her story is interrupted by the arrival of her birthday cake and she makes a wish on his command before blowing the candle. The next morning, he drops her at the airport for her flight back to Denver and hugs her goodbye. He hands her a farewell gift and her luggage before they part ways. Jackie makes it back to Denver and drives herself to her empty house where she spends the night drinking wine and watching TV. She unwraps Kyle's present and finds a red bikini inside it, which immediately brings a smile to her face. She steps out of her house into the snowfall while wearing her bikini as she throws away her sweatshirt right when the new year starts. She later meets her kids and shows them all the stuff she brought back for them. They also brought a keychain for her birthday from their trip. She shows her gratitude and spends quality time with her children. Later on, her friends want to know all about her trip now that she appears to be beaming. Her friends are both envious and happy for her to see that she's finally moving on. She makes up an excuse to Claire about why she missed her calls on her vacation when she gets a call from Kyle. They flirt and catch up and he asks her to come back to Hawaii. She goes to her friends who are attending their daughter's ballet lessons to get their opinion on this. They all have different opinions on this now that the possibility of this being more than a fling has come up. She attends a school game with Daniel where he mentions that he's taking the kids for spring break. He hasn't planned a trip yet, unlike her who is planning to go out of town again. He shames her for traveling to see her boy toy as he found out about this from their mutual friend. She retaliates that she's traveling to see her mom in Connecticut, not that it's any of his business. Will notices the tension between his parents during his game and later brings this up with Jackie. He wants her to be happy and discard the sadness she gets from Daniel. This drives her to call Kyle back and make plans to see him again. He picks her up from the airport and ties a flower garland around her neck as a welcoming gesture. They go surfing together and she wears a bikini this time. She talks to him about her kids and he can see how much she misses them. So he advises her to bring them along with her the next time she comes to Hawaii to see him. Jackie travels back and forth from Denver to Hawaii at least 4 times in 6 months, and her friends stalk Kyle's page to see what she's up to. They both judge and envy her, especially when they get a look at how good-looking Kyle is. They decide to talk some sense into her once she comes back. Meanwhile, Kyle inquires Jackie about whether she is dating any men back home because he doesn't like the idea of seeing her with anyone else. He officially asks her to be his girlfriend and she agrees to be exclusive with him. They kiss by the beach to seal this deal and later Christine can see how much Jackie is radiating. They meet up with the rest of their friends who corner Jackie for making such frequent trips and being so secretive about it. She breaks the news to them that she's no longer single because Kyle is her boyfriend now. She faces a conflict with her friends but stands her ground this time, giving them a shut-up call because this is her personal life that's nobody's business. Her friends try to adopt a more complacent approach, but she storms out of there, offended that they believe she's not thinking about her kids amongst all this. That evening, she's on the phone with Kyle while also taking a relaxing bath when Claire calls. She wants Jackie to visit right now even though it's a Sunday night. So Jackie ends the call and goes to Claire's house to meet her husband. There, she gets an opportunity for a dream job that could land her in magazines. But the drawback is working for Claire for another year. Jackie decides to go for it and hires a babysitter for the first time to invest in her career. Will confides in her about his girlfriend Stephanie and a recent heartbreak which she handles perfectly. She gives him the lesson about self-love that she should have gotten ages ago. On the other hand, Jessica starts giving her a tough time because she doesn't want Jackie to leave her with Daniel and Melinda. Will also stands up for Jackie against Daniel when he makes a mean comment. Jackie visits Kyle and tries to inspire him to start his own business. They spend more time together and he confesses that he loves her. They discuss how strange it is that they haven't met each other's friends yet. Jackie admits that she's hesitating because of how young he is and wonders if he thinks that she's too old for him. Kyle states that he proudly claims his girlfriend and doesn't have any issues with introducing her to his friends. But his issue is that he doesn't travel to the mainland much because he loves it here. They both talk about how they're settled in their lives and locations and don't want to change that for now. They're both justified in their logic, so they agree to disagree. Jackie is tucked in her piece of heaven when Daniel calls and reports that their kids got into an accident while her babysitter Jackie's driving. Jess is getting surgery for her broken arm and has been asking for her mom. Jackie rushes home at once without properly saying goodbye to Kyle. When she gets to the hospital, she gets into an argument with Daniel about whether to keep or fire the babysitter. She emphasizes that she has custody so she can choose to keep the babysitter as it was an accident. She finally sees Jessica, who's still in the hospital with the cast on. Kyle sends Jessica flowers, which sparks up a conversation about how her kids are apprehensive of her new boyfriend. Jackie decides to no longer bail on her real life and informs Kyle about this. He points out that she's letting guilt build walls around her again. He doesn't want her to break up, but she can no longer keep up with this back and forth life. Christine is concerned about how unhappy Jackie is now in Kyle's absence. She urges Jackie to call him, which leads to her heartbreak as some girl answers Kyle's phone. She's so frustrated that explicitly sets boundaries with Claire, which is very liberating. Jackie goes out with her girls and they all get drunk, which reveals how miserable they've all been. They set up Jackie with someone at Thanksgiving. He's the surgeon who dealt with Jessica's injury, and Jackie might like him. She also finds out from mutual friends that Daniel and Melinda broke up. The date with the doctor doesn't go well, and Jackie decides to no longer compromise on things she wants. She empathizes with Daniel about his breakup, and they mend their relationship as co-parents. It's Christmas again, and Jackie orders pizza for the Christmas party with her friends and kids. She plans to fly to Hawaii with her kids the next day, but Kyle shows up at the party instead to surprise her. It turns out that Kyle has a business now, and that woman was his sister who he has brought along. Now that they've met in the middle, their family can have the best summers in Hawaii and the coldest winters in Denver.